Well, I'm very excited to share that I got the advance copy of my new cookbook, The Modern Pioneer Pantry. This is my second book in the Modern Pioneer series. And we're going to look inside together. We're going to go through it chapter by chapter and talk about everything that's covered in this book and some of the wonderful recipes as well. Hi, sweet friends. If you're new here, I'm Mary from Mary's Nest and author of the Modern Pioneer Cookbook and now the Modern Pioneer Pantry. And I'd like to welcome you to my kitchen. Now, you might be wondering what this particular cover was all about when I showed this to you a while ago and I mentioned that my book was available for pre-sale. The reason we couldn't walk through chapter by chapter in this book is because my publisher just sends me the cover, the spine, and the back for me to approve it. But the actual cookbook, what's inside, has not been finished yet. So it's a multiple stage process. So when I shared with you that this was available for pre-order, all I had to show you was the cover. I didn't have an advance copy yet. Actually, what's inside when your publisher sends you this is a lot of blank pages. Isn't that funny? It's just like a notebook. So that's what you've been seeing from the time that I received that sample of what my cover would look like. So now this copy is my advanced copy, and this is exactly what the book is going to look like. So I knew the cover and the spine and the back, but now I've got everything inside, the real deal. And that's what I want to do with you today, is to walk you through chapter by chapter and fill you in on everything that's actually in this book. Now, as I said, this is my advanced copy. It's the only one I have because the book hasn't been released yet. It's still available for pre-order. It'll be available in August. But the good news is, while it's available for pre-order, you can also request a signed book plate. So if you're not able to make it to one of my book signings, you can still get a free signed book plate. So be sure to take advantage of that because it's only being offered for a limited time. So if you have my first book, The Modern Pioneer Cookbook, you know I put my heart and soul into that book, and it is so much more than a cookbook. It's a manual for how to create a traditional foods kitchen. And then on top of that, for free, that you can download on my website, no email required, I have over a 250-page curriculum for grades K through 12, so that if you want to teach children how to become traditional cooks using my Modern Pioneer Cookbook, I make the process very easy for you. And I worked with an actual curriculum developer on that K through 12 curriculum. So it's really high quality, and it's totally available for free. And so I highly recommend that if you've got my Modern Pioneer Cookbook, you download that curriculum, because some of you have shared with me that even as adults, you've enjoyed using that as you learn and create your learn about traditional foods and create your traditional foods kitchen. Now, in the Modern Pioneer Pantry, this is, and I'll read to you from the cover, a complete guide to preserving food. Over 115 recipes for canning, drying, dehydrating, freezing, fermenting, and pickling food. And just like with the Modern Pioneer Cookbook, I put my heart and soul into this book, and it is so much more than any type of cookbook and so much more than anything on preserving. It really goes above and beyond, and it's a manual that is a supplement, in essence, to the Modern Pioneer Cookbook so that we can all continue our traditional foods journey together. And I think you're going to love it as much as I do. Now, the layout of this book is basically the same as the layout in my Modern Pioneer Cookbook. And I really like it because I think it's very clear. This is the table of contents, and you've just got each chapter and then everything listed underneath that as to what's in that chapter. And then something that I really enjoy, you get a little message from me that I wrote to you. And then what I love about this process, or what I love about how they lay out the chapter opener, which I really have to credit my editor to because this is his idea. I love that when you get to each chapter, so here's chapter 1, they basically recap what was in the table of contents. So when you open to each chapter, you can look and say, oh, okay, chapter 1. And chapter 1 is about the Four Corners Pantry. And then what is the Four Corners Pantry, and getting started with preserving food at home, why preserve food to stock in your pantry, how much food do you need to preserve, budget-friendly fresh food for preserving, and meal planning flexibility with home preserved foods. So that's everything that's covered in chapter 1. And how nice, as you're flipping through the book, you see something, it catches your eye. You don't have to worry about constantly glancing back at the table of contents. I love this design. I was blessed with a really terrific editor. And then again, they've got a picture of my pantry and different things like that. They would take a lot of pictures in my kitchen. In addition to taking pictures of the food, they take a lot of pictures just of what goes on in my kitchen. So to give you a little glance into all of that. And then as you move through the book, every chapter has that same format. A picture with a refresh, so to speak, of the table of contents that's just unique to this chapter. And chapter 2 is all about home canning. And what I do in this chapter is I talk about home canning in general, including water bath canning and pressure canning. Now, they both have their own separate chapters, but I thought it was interesting, especially if you're new to canning, that you might enjoy, for example, a little history about home canning, know your foods, high acid foods versus low acid foods, choosing the right canner, the importance of headspace, altitude, and processing time, storing home canned food safely, the importance of safe home canning practices, and which foods should not be canned. So these are all general subjects that I talk about that there was enough information to just have that in one chapter and make it easy for you so that when you went to the chapter on water bath canning, you had a little, history, education, so to speak, under your belt. And then when you went to the chapter on pressure canning, it's the same thing. You had a little history and a little knowledge under your belt. And then chapter 3 is all about water bath canning. And as you see, there's a lot of recipes. There's about 20 recipes or so in every chapter, except in pressure canning, there's a few less because I wanted to make sure that I had lots of, there's only so much room of recipes they can fit, and they were able to fit 115 recipes in here. But with the way they were divided up, it's pretty much about 20 in each, and a little less in the pressure canning. But all very useful when we get to pressure canning. I think you're going to really like the recipes that I've shared there. But what I do is I take you on a journey, just like with the Modern Pioneer Cookbook, and I start you little by little with easy recipes, working to ones that, nothing's really hard, but working to ones that may have a few more ingredients, require a little more time, things like that. But you're building your skills as you're working through the chapter. And I love that I start you off, if you're new to water bath canning, you'll love this, because I start you off water bath canning frozen peaches. This way you get them on sale and you just want to clear out your freezer. Freezer is very valuable space. And you want to home can them and get them into your pantry. It's nice because all the work's been done for you. They've been cleaned, sliced up, the pits are removed, So, and that's a very easy way to learn how to water bath can. Then I've got some wonderful jellies. I teach you how to make jellies, preserves, marmalade, and one recipe, when I think I was talking about this in another video, being a Texan now, I've lived here like 30 years, I love chipotle. And I have a recipe for chipotle cherry preserves that are absolutely scrumptious. And I've got that in here. And then I also take you on a journey where I teach you the difference between jam and jelly, preserves, something, excuse the way my pronunciation may be with my American accent, but confitures. And we talk about conserves and chutney and purees, pie fillings, and then we move into pickles and relishes and salsas. Nothing is left undone. And I also have the recipe in here for cowboy candy and how to water bath can it, which are the pickled and sweetened jalapenos that are also scrumptious. And in the chapter on water bath canning, I go through all the different types of water bath canners that are available to you, which one you might particularly like working with, all the equipment and tools you're going to need. I try to make this as easy and seamless as possible for you as you're starting on this journey of food preservation. And there's lots of step-by-step instructions, lots of step-by-step pictures. And if you've been with me a while, you know I'm very detailed. So if you're a beginner or you're new to this, I think that you'll find the instructions very helpful because they're very detailed. And even if you're a very experienced canner, I think you're going to really find some of the recipes very interesting and unique. Some new and exciting things that are fun to enjoy. And something I really like is that I took the time, as I mentioned earlier, to go through what all of these things mean, because often we get into this habit where we use words very interchangeable: jelly, jams, conserves, preserves, chutneys, confitures, so on and so forth. And I really enjoyed sharing with you, based in history, based in the traditions of these foods, what each of them did mean at one time, and then I show you how to make them in the traditional way. So that was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. And if you like, I love Earl Grey tea. I have an Earl Grey jelly in here. This is so good. So you definitely have to try this if you like Earl Grey tea. And you can do this with any tea that you have. But I used Earl Grey because it's one of my favorites. I love the bergamot flavor. And you put that in the first Modern Pioneer cookbook. I show you how to make sourdough English muffins. You put some of that Earl Grey jelly on those sourdough English muffins, and I'm telling you, that is one of the nicest breakfast treats. And what I love about this book, when I was working on it, I just didn't want to tell you how to preserve a bunch of different foods. I also wanted to show you how to use the foods you preserve to create really tasty and nutritious meals. And that's what's reflected in many of the pictures, as well as many of the recipes when we get to some of the other sections. But this is something that is so simple yet so tasty. And you just take a baked potato, top it with some of your homemade sour cream if you have it, and then use the cowboy candy as a topping. No cheese, no nothing. I know people are like, what do you mean? Where's the loaded baked potato? You put some candied jalapeno on here, people are going to ask for this time and time again. And now in chapter 4, this is where we go through the pressure canning process of preserving food. And this is very similar to chapter 3, because I walk you through again the different types of pressure canners, and you can determine which one might be right for you. And then I have all the detailed step-by-step along with pictures that are appropriate. You know, my step-by-step are very detailed. So some of them you don't necessarily need a picture for. It's something better to read, but whenever a picture is necessary, you've got it. Now, something I want to share with you that I didn't mention yet, each chapter will have a QR code at the very beginning. And you'll see that right here. And if you hover with your phone over that QR code, it's going to take you to a dedicated page over on my website. And on that page are going to be videos that are going to show you different things regarding the topic of that particular chapter. So I may be showing you pressure canning equipment, pressure canning tools, sharing pressure canning recipes, whatever the case may be. For the water bath canning QR code, it'll be water bath canning. For the drying and dehydrating QR code, it'll be drying and dehydrating recipes. For the freezing QR code, it'll be showing you freezing recipes. So there's a lot that you can learn over and above from what's in the cookbook, because often what I'm talking about in these videos takes you beyond the cookbook, which is nice. So some is directly related to the cookbook and some takes you beyond. So it's like a bonus. Now in the pressure canning section, I also have a recipe for a simple chicken broth and then a simple beef broth. And the reason that I do this is because I am not a fan, if you've been with me for a while, you know what I'm going to say, I am not a fan of home canning bone broth. And the reason is bone broth is very gelatinous. And we want that gelatin because it's very soothing to our digestive tract. What happens though if we go ahead and pressure can it at high temperature, which is what pressure canning involves? We can break or damage that gelatin. So if you've ever bought bone broth in bottles from the grocery store and put it in your refrigerator, you'll notice it doesn't gel up. And that's because they had to pressure can it in order to make it, the commercial pressure canning, to make it shelf stable. But now occasionally you'll see bone broth sold in the refrigerator section. They're usually very expensive. That's why I tell you, make it homemade. And I got plenty of videos for you on that. But we work hard to get that wonderful gelatin and make a wonderful bone broth, that we don't want to break or damage that gelatin. However, it's really convenient to be able to have some sort of chicken broth or beef broth tucked away in our pantries, our working pantries or our extended pantries. Because in the beginning, I think I already mentioned this to you, but chapters 1 and 2, in chapters 1 we talk about the Four Corners pantry, the working pantry, the refrigerator, the freezer, and then the extended pantry, or what we call the prepper pantry, where we have all our backups. And in that chapter, I talk about how to stock these different areas of your Four Corners pantry. And it's so nice to have some type of broth in our working pantry as well as in our extended pantry. Both of those are where we have our non-perishable foods. Because it's very reasonable to make broth at home. But often if you're going to buy broth that's from the grocery store or the big box stores, yes, when it comes to, I've shared with you talking about multiple streams of food, I will keep store-bought broth on hand, store-bought stock. These are all backups in the event that I've not had a chance to make some homemade. And if I'm, sick or something and my family needs some broth, they've got it. They can just open a package. And so I understand that completely, and I stand with you, on doing that. However, most of the time, I would rather make my broth homemade and then home can it, because that's the beauty of broth. Broth is more, as the term says, brothy. It's loose. It's more watery. It's not necessarily gelatinous, and that's okay because it's still full of vitamins and nutrients. And being able to pressure can it, you don't feel bad because you don't say, oh, wow, it's also a lot shorter in time and whatnot to make. You don't feel like, oh, I put all this time and effort into making this beautiful, rich, gelatinous bone broth, and then I'm going to break the gelatin. You don't feel that way. You feel I've made this, somewhat watery, brothy. Now, watery doesn't imply it's not flavorful. I show you how to make a very flavorful broth. So it's a flavorful broth, but it's brothy, it's watery. We don't need to worry about damaging it when we pressure can it. So I've got that recipe right there for you to make your life easy. I don't tell you, okay, can your broth, and leave you high and dry. I give you a really good recipe for a simple broth. Then, that's the chicken broth. Then we move on to step 2, where I show you how to pressure can the chicken broth. So you're all set. And then you've got this on your shelf in your working pantry or in your extended or prepper pantry, as we nickname it. And you can quickly make so many things with this. You can use it as the broth for a soup, for a stew. You can use this to make gravies and sauces. You can even use this in place of water when you're cooking rice or grains. It adds flavor, it adds nutrition. It's absolutely wonderful, and I consider it a mandatory staple, so to speak, for the Traditional Foods Kitchen. Then I show you how to can cubed chicken. What a blessing to have cubed chicken in your pantry, right? I mean, you can make so many meals with that. And don't you just love that picture? I prepared it with rice and broccoli, and the food stylist did such a nice job preparing it. And I have to tell you that these chopsticks are very special to me. They're beautiful in person. And that's what I love about having them take the pictures right here in my kitchen, is because they use a lot of my things, which is nice. They have the photographer brings different backgrounds and stuff with her, so it doesn't like just get boring, I guess you could say. But she's taking the pictures right here at my kitchen table, but she'll put down a surface here and then a surface in the back. And so you get some variety. But and they also bring, the photographer and the food stylist bring a lot of supplies that they use in the photographs as well, but they often use my own dishes, which is nice. And here they used my chopsticks. And these are very special to me because my father, when I was a little girl, my father was on a business trip in San Francisco. And he knew I had, from a very early age, I had such a fascination with Asian cultures. And my father, and I'm not 100% sure, well, I guess to a certain extent I do have some idea of how it started. My father was in the Army, and he had served in the Korean War. And he had been all over Asia, Japan, Korea, some of the other smaller countries. My parents also had been to China. And so growing up, I heard a lot of stories from my father about his experiences in Asia, and his bedtime song to me with, if you have Korean heritage, you might recognize, and again, excuse my pronunciation, but my father would sing to me at night to bed, Aridang, if and forgive me for the pronunciation, but it's a lovely little song. And so I always had this fascination and wanted to learn more and visit and so on and so forth. But he found these in San Francisco, in their Chinatown, and brought them home to me. And so I've had them all my life. I think I was probably 5 or 6 years old maybe, and I've always treasured them and taken good care of them. And when I was talking with the food stylist about it, she said, "Oh, we're putting those in the cookbook." So I thought that was very cute. But in any event, so I just go on, I show you how to make a simple beef broth. And once you make the beef broth, then I show you how to home can it, pressure can it. And why are we pressure canning? Because these are low acid foods. You can water bath can high acid foods. When I'm talking high acid and low acid, you're talking about the pH scale. And foods like broths and meats and vegetables that haven't been pickled or things like that are low acid, and so they need to be pressure canned to be safe, to be made shelf stable. And then, just like the cubed chicken, I show you how to do cubed beef. Because I hope you can see that, once you have chicken broth in your pantry, beef broth in your pantry, cubed chicken in your pantry, and cubed beef in your pantry, you have so many meals ready to go. And there's just so much you can do with either one of those. Soups, stews, a stir fry, some rice, some broccoli, you're good to go. And it makes dinner prep very easy. And then I throw in some other, I tried to keep this very simple. So I follow it up with cubed potatoes. I've got some sliced carrots. Oh, I've got a nice chicken vegetable soup, because that's something also too. If you can have chicken broth, beef broth, the cubed beef, the cubed chicken, and some chicken vegetable soup on your in your pantry, you're really set, because that's a godsend. You know, if you come down with a cold, you're feeling a little under the weather, yes, hopefully with multiple streams of food, you might have some canned chicken soup, canned from the grocery store, but there's nothing like homemade, let's face it. And knowing that if you're the one who's under the weather, and as I've shared with you, I'm the chief cook and bottle washer in my family, and if I'm under the weather, I need to make sure that things are very easy for my husband. And back, our son is a grown man now, but when he was younger, to make sure that things were very easy for my husband and son. And you have a home canned chicken soup like this, boom, all they have to do is open it, put it in a pot, warm it up, and you're good to go. And then on top of that, I've got a nice cowboy style beef stew. This is very tasty. I think you'll like this very much. And that's got, you know, sort of a Texas twist to it. And then I show you how to pressure can fresh green beans, as well as various varieties of dried beans. And then I show you how to make a ground beef chili with beans. I know maybe not totally copacetic in Texas, but I do like chili with beans. And I have to tell you, I love this picture, and I thought this was very cute. This is my pot here. I had made the chili, home canned it, and then we opened it and put it in the in this pot, because the food stylist saw this on my stovetop, and like with the chopsticks, she said, "Oh my gosh." She and the photographer, they said, "We're in love with this pot," this deep green, and it just was so beautiful, you know, with the chili in it. So that's a nice picture. It's nice, you know, you have some nice pictures that go along with the recipe. Then I've got spaghetti sauce with meat. I've got a traditional marinara. Now, okay, when you look at the traditional marinara recipe, some of you might be like saying, "I hope she's kidding." But I'm going to tell you, I share with you how my Italian relatives, you know, as I've told you, my mother is of Northern Italian heritage, and I share with you how my relatives and my mom and my grandma, all of them, how they made marinara. And it's kind of funny. And it involves laundry basket loads of Roma, you know, the Italian plum tomatoes, pillowcases, and it's an adventure. But this is so much fun to do if you do this homemade. So I highly recommend that if you have a boatload of tomatoes at the end of the summer and you're wondering what to do with them, make old-fashioned, make it the old-fashioned homemade way, marinara sauce, and invite your friends over. I mean, this is really like a labor of love. You have friends and family, whomever is nearby, neighbors, invite everybody over, make marinara sauce the old-fashioned traditional way, and then everybody will go home with some, and we'll have memories that really, the memories will last you a lifetime. It's just so much fun. Then I've got a few other things. I show you how to can mushrooms in a savory broth. I have an end-of-season vegetable medley. I love things like this because you can mix a bunch of vegetables together that are approved for pressure canning, and you can create a really lovely vegetable medley with kind of the last of what's ever in your garden. Then we move into chapter 5. That's all about drying and dehydrating. I talk about how to get started with it, the different types of ways to dry food or dehydrate food. That's the nice thing about this chapter, is that if you have an electric dehydrator, great. But I have recipes that cover everything. Things that are air dried, things that are oven dried. I even talk about sun drying. So there's something for everybody. And I really enjoyed this chapter because I show you how to do, this is something I really love having in my pantry. These are salt-dried herbs, where you dry your herbs and you have them in salt. Having salts like this, and if you have a big herb garden, even if you have I have a relatively small kitchen garden, but I can grow enough herbs to do a lot of things, dried herb seasonings, as well as these salt-dried herbs, and then you have this herb salt, scrumptious. And you can do it with whatever herbs you like that have a pleasing flavor, edible and have a pleasing flavor. And so I think you're going to find, and I give you little tips about how to ensure that herbs stay green and appetizing looking. Here is the one, blanched, oven-dried, vibrant herbs. This is where you blanch them and then you dry them in your oven, basically with the pilot light on or the electric light. These are so easy to do. But what I love about like for example, you have Italian flat leaf parsley, you quickly blanch it and then you lay it out on a cookie sheet and you let it dry in the oven. You are going to have the greenest dried parsley, and all natural. There's no artificial coloring, no artificial preservatives added to this. It is going to be such a beautifully bright green. I just love it. Then I teach you how to do infused oils. Let's see, we've got the candied tomatoes. Oh, these are scrumptious. Look at this. And so easy to do. You dry the tomatoes, you do this in the oven, you pack them in olive oil, and then they're so versatile. And what's really nice, you can take these out, you can do these at the end of the summer, take them out around Christmas time and top slices of toasted bread, make like a bruschetta or crostini using the sun-dried tomatoes. Scrumptious taste of summer in the middle of December. And then I basically talk about a lot of different things, how to dehydrate vegetables. I have things like making oven-dried hardtack, which is great when we talk about the extended or prepper pantry, when we talk about the sub-pantries underneath that, one of which is the survival pantry. Hardtack is a great addition to that. And this is something this was fun because I made this. This is a tropical fruit leather. It's so tasty. And I made this, and it was so cute because right after, see here, this is the food stylist made it look cute like this. And then after this was done, all the fruit leather was eaten except for like 1 or 2 pieces that we sent home to some of the kids. The photographer has some children and the food stylist has a son. And there were more sheets than this, but everybody was like going, this is so good. And they were inhaling it. That was funny. And we've got some, dehydrator jam. And I want to tell you about this. All of what's so great is all of the recipes in this book, as well as in the Modern Pioneer Pantry, as well as in my first book, the Modern Pioneer Cookbook, these are all professionally tested by professional recipe testers. And one of the recipe testers who tested many of the recipes for this book, the Modern Pioneer Pantry, is a chef. And it was so interesting because many of the things in this book are not necessarily the things that chefs would make. And so he was really kind of learning, and he was really enjoying it. He sent me wonderful comments, but something that was so cute, and if you've been, making traditional foods for a while, you will relate. Some of the things that I have in the book, it was so cute because he wrote to me and he said, when I first looked at this recipe, because he's a chef, he said, I really questioned, was this going to work and how's this going to taste? And then he would get to the end writing to me and he would say, it was delicious. I thought that was very cute. But one of the things that I think it was him, or one of the food recipe testers, they loved this strawberry lemon jam that you do in the dehydrator. And if you have ever been the type of person who doesn't want to, be stirring the jam and you're worried, is it hot, is it splattering, did I stir it enough or what? Although I give you very detailed instructions on how to make jam that I think is going to help you and revolutionize your jam making. But this, in the water bath canning section, but this recipe is so easy and it's so delicious. And I believe it was the chef, the recipe tester said, outstanding to be able to make a jam in a dehydrator. So that was a lot of fun. Then I have pemmican for you. And this was, this chapter was done by the chef because I remember he had said that he had a really hard time finding a good pemmican recipe that not only held together, but that tasted good and yet was traditional. And that's what he said when he tested this recipe that I have here for a traditional pemmican. He said this was really tasty and something that he would definitely make again. And that's a real survival food. That's perfect for your extended pantry, for the survival section of your extended pantry. And then, you know, I'm a no-waste girl. If you make the homemade marinara and you got a lot of tomato skins, dry them and make tomato powder. So I've got that for you. And that's a real fun recipe. And then we save the apple skins. You know, in my first book, I share with you how to make apple scrap vinegar, save your apple skins, and make apple peel powder. It's so easy to do. And have you seen the cost of apple peel powder? Apple peel is very good for you. It contains the food that a good bacteria in our digestive tract likes to eat. And the good bacteria, again, excuse my pronunciation, but I think it's Akkermansia. And Akkermansia is a very important good bacteria that we need in our system. It keeps us healthy in the event that we are battling some type of illness. It can often, there's been a lot of research done about Akkermansia, and it can often help us recover faster, and whatever treatment we're receiving can work better if we have a lot of Akkermansia in our digestive tract. So it's very interesting. And apple peels Akkermansia loves to eat apple peel. I wonder, I don't know this for a fact, but I wonder if the expression "an apple a day keeps the doctor away," maybe they knew something. But in any event, maybe the people who ate apples were healthier, and because they were feeding their Akkermansia, which is a very important good bacteria. Could be. So then I show you how to save your apple peels and how to make apple peel powder. Oh gosh, we're dehydrating cranberries without any sugar and no oil. I love that. We're making beef jerky. Oh, okay. I want to really share this with you because the chef really liked this one too. I love, as I've shared with you, if you've been with me a while, you know I talk a lot about chipotles. I had no idea what they were before I moved to Texas, and my husband took me on a date to the Lady Bird Johnson Wildflower Center, and at the time they had a little cafe there, and I had a salad, and they brought some dressing, and it looked like Thousand Island, you know, sort of that orangey, pinky color. And I tried it, and it was so good, and I couldn't believe what it was. And so I asked the lady, "What is this salad dressing?" And she said, "Oh, it's made with chipotles." So you better believe I learned what chipotles were. Well, what are they? They're dried smoked jalapenos. And the only smoked and dried jalapenos. Now, the only problem is I don't really like having to smoke food. I don't have any real easy way to do it outside, and I don't really want to use a stovetop smoker, but I found a way to do this that is so much easier, because today, you know how there are like so many salts, fancy salts available? You can buy salt that has a smoky flavor to it. You can toss the jalapenos with this salt, a little oil, a little salt, and then you dry them in your oven. Takes a little time, but then you have this, let me show you, you have these gorgeous dried chipotles. And if you can find I like to use the red jalapenos, the ones that are truly really ripe, instead of the green. And you just toss them with some olive oil. I have all the directions here. You toss them with some olive oil, some of that smoked salt, you dry them in your oven, you got chipotles. And I felt so happy because the chef said to me, this is a really great little shortcut and something he would definitely be doing again. Then we get into some recipes where we're using some of the foods that we've either, you know, maybe dried or home canned or whatever the case may be, and we're going to make a tangy barbecue sauce, which we're going to use later as we work our way through the book. And then I show some simple things to you, like how to dehydrate pineapple, fresh or canned, and that's what's a nice little tip. And then we make some spicy Texas-style ketchup. And again, let's see, we're using a couple of different things in here the oven-dried candied tomatoes that I showed you earlier. You're going to use them to make your spicy Texas-style ketchup. So you see, this is what I love, because I like to take you on a journey. I'm not just saying, okay, you can home can this, okay, you can dry this, okay, you can pickle this, okay, you can ferment this, okay, you can freeze this. We're on a journey. We're making foods, and then we're using them to, we're making ingredients, and then we're using them to make foods and to make meals. And that's very important to me. So I've got some other things that I dry. If you love, I love crystallized ginger. I show you how to do that. It's a lot of fun. Again, this can be a good holiday project. Some of these pictures are just glorious. Oh, and then I show you how to do candied citrus curls. These are scrumptious, relatively easy to make. And then what's nice is if you like to make panettone, the lovely Italian bread, having these candied citrus peels in your pantry is wonderful, because you can cut those up if you don't have any citron and use those in place of the citron. I have a video where I show you how to candy citron, but sometimes it can be difficult to find at the grocery store, so orange peels can be a good substitute. Then we move into chapter 6, where we go all about fermentation, and I've just got a boatload of fermentation recipes in here for you. But again, we've got the QR code, getting started with fermentation. I'm going to hold your hand and walk you through. You're going to have the cookbook and you're going to have the video. So I'm going to walk you, or multiple videos, and I'm going to walk you through different types of fermentation and all the different recipes. And I start you with some easy beverages like fermented lemonade, scrumptious. Oh, this one, I know so many of you, because I have this on the YouTube channel, fermented strawberry soda. I walk you through how to do that. And what's nice about having the cookbook, YouTube, websites, all of this is wonderful, but there's nothing like having a hard copy. Having this that we can put on our kitchen bookshelves and pull it down whenever we want. I'm so old school. I love a cookbook. I love a hard copy. I love having this. It's such an honor, such a joy. I'm so thrilled. You know, it's hard to believe I'm in my late 60s, and I didn't start having the opportunity to write and publish cookbooks for a large publisher like this, Penguin Random House, until I was in my 60s. So it's never too late. You know, if whatever you're thinking about, dream big. My father used to say that: dream big, shoot for the stars. You know, anything's possible. You know, a lot of hard work, but anything's possible. And then, I want to talk to you about this recipe. This is for a fruit and herbal cordial. Now, cordial has many meanings, and this is a non-alcoholic cordial. And these go back in history. And you can find alcoholic cordials, which is often what you'll see today, but you also will see non-alcoholic cordials that, came from like the 1600s, 1700s, and so on and so forth. And it's fermented, and it's effervescent, and it's absolutely delightful. But what is so nice is if you are having a party and you have people, we don't drink, and so we don't serve alcohol, but we like to serve, like mocktails. This is perfect for a mocktail. And even if you do drink and you're serving alcoholic beverages, you may have guests who don't drink. And having things like this handy to serve, it's a real treat. I've shared with you, switchels and shrubs and these different types of mocktail varieties to serve at parties and whatnot that are very refreshing. And now you can add this fruit and herbal cordial to your repertoire. And then I've got some fermented iced tea. If you've never had fermented iced tea, you are in for a treat. I also show you how to make Rejuvelac. This is something I had a lot of questions about, because in the beginning of the year, when people, are coming out of the Christmas holiday season and New Year's, and maybe they've overeaten and they're just feeling very full and they need to be rejuvenated, that's what Rejuvelac is for. It's a fermented beverage using grain, and it's got a nice, like, tangy kind of flavor to it, and it's loaded with probiotics to really give a big boost to your gut health, which may have been slightly compromised with maybe a lot of sugar and whatnot during the holidays. But this is a wonderful recipe to have under your belt. And then speaking about, I talk about fermenting berries, and then speaking of shrubs, I have how to make a fruit shrub in here, and I also have a video for that on YouTube, which when you highlight that QR code at the beginning of the fermentation chapter, that'll be one of the videos you'll see. Same with tepeche. I have a video for this. This is a wonderful fermented pineapple beverage. Again, scrumptious. I love fermented beverages. They're just a wonderful way to get good probiotics into your system. And then something that is so popular that so many of you have shared with me that you love, so I was sure to get it into the cookbook, and that's the fermented cherry tomatoes with basil. And again, I have a video showing you how to do this, and now you also have a hard copy in the cookbook. So that's a lovely picture. And then what else are we doing? Oh, the pink cauliflower. That's a lot of fun. The photographer and the food stylist got a big kick out of this, because you might see purple cauliflower, orange cauliflower, regular cauliflower, sometimes the green cauliflower, but not pink cauliflower. But you're going to pickle this, and you're going to have pink cauliflower and a deep pink and pink pickled onions, and it looks wonderful on a charcuterie platter. And then some peppers and red bell peppers and onions. That's great for topping sandwiches. I've got a beet relish, spiced preserved lemons, fermented radishes. These are great. I love these. And again, all probiotic rich. This is all good for gut health. And then chipotle. Now we're going to take our chipotles that we smoked in the oven with the smoked salt, and we're going to make a fermented chipotle mayonnaise. Fermented. This is going to last a good while in your fridge. If you've ever made homemade mayonnaise and you're like, I have to use it within a few days, you're going to love this fermented version because it's going to last a lot longer, and just the addition of chipotle. Now you can make it without the chipotle, but not me. I love it with the chipotle. And then I've got a fermented steak sauce. I just have to show you this picture. This is with one of those tomahawk steaks where the bone has been Frenched. Look at this gorgeous picture. Makes you hungry. It makes you start to drool. But that fermented steak sauce is really great. And you maintain the good probiotics in it because you're not heating that steak sauce. You're taking that out of your refrigerator and putting it onto your steak. And then we've got a sweet and sour fermented dipping sauce. Wonderful if you like the pot scrapers. I'm saying the wrong thing. Pot stickers. It's been a long day. So lots of good things. I've got fermented apricots in a honey brine. You can ferment in honey because I know a lot of you have asked me this because you're worried that honey, which is antimicrobial, may damage the probiotics that are trying to develop in a ferment. But honey kills bacteria by suffocating it. Whereas when you dilute the honey in water, it loses its suffocation properties and just becomes a food for the good bacteria to chow down on and kick off the fermentation. And then I've just got some end-of-season fruit ferment and a vegetable ferment. Those are great if you just have your garden and you've got some, bits and bobs and scraps. It's wonderful to ferment them. And the fruit can be used in multiple ways. It gets a nice little tang to it. and the vegetables are wonderful because you can even use scraps and nobody's going to know, and they just become like a pickle, and you can use them as toppers on a salad, toppers on a sandwich. It's just, there's just so much to be done. Okay, now this is the frozen food section, chapter 7. There are so many good recipes in here, and I wanted to make sure I added this chapter to the book because in our Four Corners pantry scenario, we want to remember that the freezer can really be a wonderful place to preserve food, and to preserve food that has been prepared into meals that can easily be warmed and have dinner on the table quickly. And so I go through the basics. You've got the basics in here on, how to freeze fruit, how to freeze vegetables, so on and so forth. But what I want to get into is, I show you how to puree garlic and make a paste and freeze it into ice cubes. So whenever you have a recipe that calls for some garlic, you can just throw in a cube. It works great. The recipe tester loved, and even the food stylist has this, you can see in the background with some green beans, and she threw in a garlic ice cube, and it was scrumptious. We all enjoyed eating that. So that's there. I have some things in here that are very, very versatile. A quick and easy freezer marinade, and then, because einkorn, in our traditional foods kitchen, we've become, interested in using einkorn in some of our recipes. And I know that the all-purpose einkorn is the easiest to find at grocery stores and the easiest to work with. So I've included recipes for working with that. And the nice thing is, even though it's all-purpose flour, einkorn, all-purpose flour, is more nutritious. You even notice it has a yellow hue to it than the modern-day all-purpose flours that you'd find in the grocery store that are just labeled, all-purpose flour. So I've got some chive and cheese freezer biscuits. They're so easy to make. You pop them in your freezer. They warm up beautifully. I've got a freezer jam in here, so you have a lot of options. You've got your traditional jams that you can then go on to either put in the fridge or water bath can. You've got a dehydrator jam. You've got a freezer jam. So you have options, and that's very important to me. Then I show you how to make a pie crust, and this is a sourdough pie crust. And I'm using einkorn flour, all-purpose einkorn flour. But what I like about this is because I always get so many questions, what do I do with my discard? Because I've told you all, don't throw out your sourdough discard. What you remove when you go to feed your starter, you save it. And then I show you how to use it. Again, it goes along with my no waste theme. And here I've got an einkorn sourdough pie crust recipe. And why I really like this and why I wanted to do it with sourdough is because when you make a pie crust with sourdough, it basically makes it foolproof, because the sourness of the sourdough, it's very similar to using vinegar, but you got to be careful with vinegar because you can't really put a lot of vinegar into a pie crust. It would taste too vinegary. But sourdough discard doesn't have that same effect. Now you can use your fresh sourdough starter as well, but you can definitely use the discard. And it keeps the pie crust, the sourdough starter keeps, or discard, keeps the pie crust very tender. So if you're new to working with pie crust, you can't overwork this pie crust. It's going to come out tender every time, and it freezes beautifully. That's why it's in the freezing chapter. So you make it, you freeze it up, and you put this in your freezer, and then when you take it out and bring it up to room temperature and get ready to roll out, it's going to be like you just made it. Because have you ever made pie crust? Maybe just a delicious, but just a traditional butter pie crust. And then after it's been in the freezer a while and you take it out, bring it up to room temperature and you start rolling it out, and sometimes it's cracking on you. It just seems a little dry, a little difficult to work with. Maybe the butter has dissipated too much. Not the case with this einkorn sourdough pie crust. You can't go wrong. It's literally foolproof. It's going to come out perfect and flaky every time, thanks to the sourdough. What we do is, once we make that pie crust, then we can make a lot of recipes that freeze well. We're going to do hand pies. Look at this gloriousness. Isn't that beautiful? Or, you know, you can put in the toaster oven or the toaster. You've got the pie crust right in your freezer. Take it out, make your hand pies. Works great. I've got yeast freezer rolls. I'm using einkorn flour. I do talk about how if you want to use a different type of flour, you can. But it's so nice how there are certain recipes where einkorn flour works very well. It can be a little more challenging, you know, when you're doing a boule, you know, trying to do those bakery loaves of bread. But there are certain things that einkorn works really well for. And the dinner rolls, which are right on the cover here, they work great. This recipe comes out beautiful, and I show you a trick on how to put them in the tin and freeze them, and then bang them out of the tin, wrap them up, put them into the freezer just like that. So you're not, you're not taking up all your tins in your freezer. You've got them handy, you know, cake tins to make your cakes with or do with whatever you want, and they're waiting right there in the freezer for you. When it's ready, when they're ready to bake, boom, pop them in the oven and you are good to go. And then I've got freezer-friendly brown gravies. I've got crepes. Oh, and I was so happy. This was what the chef told me. He said this is his new favorite crepe recipe, and that made me very happy because this is a chef, you know, and I'm a home cook. And so when I can share something with him that he liked and he said will become like a new family favorite, made me very happy. Again, very easy to make. These hold up beautifully in the freezer. These are all recipes that hold up well in the freezer. So you can make them in advance when you have the time, pop them in your freezer, and then when you're short on time, it's minutes basically to prepare. And then I've got, einkorn is great, but I also have a real soft spot in my heart for spelt. I love spelt because spelt is really very similar to like working with modern day whole wheat. Spelt is just easy to work with. And I love slice and bake cookies, and I love making them homemade. And I've got a wonderful recipe, boom, right in the freezer. You mix it up, you roll it in some parchment paper, put it in a freezer-proof bag, and every time you want fresh cookies, you slice them. Well, once you make the dough, and I share with you different, mix-ins, so you can make a variety, whether you want, like chocolate chip or cranberry or, raisin oatmeal, whatever the case may be. You have your mix-ins, and so you can have a couple of rolls. You can even divide this and just have smaller rolls, whatever. There's a lot of flexibility. And then you slice, you put it in your freezer, and when you want cookies, you slice, you bake, you pop it in your oven, bake it, and you're all set. So that's a wonderful recipe. And then there's so many good things in here. I could go on forever, but I just want to tell you there is this lasagna recipe, and I love this picture because this candle here, is so typical of the candles in restaurants with the Chianti bottles, that were common in the New York restaurants, Italian restaurants my parents would take me to when I was a little kid. And so some point during the years when Ben and I were homeschooling, we made this as a project because he always loved working with wax, and we had a lot of fun. And again, the food stylist was fantastic when she saw this, and I told her that our son Ben had made it. She said, "Oh, it's going in the cookbook." But what I want to tell you about this lasagna recipe is I do not like those no-boil noodles, lasagna noodles that they sell at the grocery store. I just don't like the texture. So I figured out a way to make a lasagna, but it does not involve having to boil the noodles in advance. You're going to use your regular, wavy lasagna noodles that you're going to buy at the grocery store, and then you're going to follow this recipe, and you're going to make your lasagna using the hard noodles. Then you're going to wrap it well. You're going to put it in your freezer. When you're ready to serve that for dinner, you got it. This is the only thing you have to remember is either take it out the night before and put it in your refrigerator, or try to remember to take it out a few hours and let it defrost on your counter before going into your oven, because you want it to defrost, because as it defrosts, it creates some liquid that then when you go and bake it, it softens the noodles. And this is really good. And we ate this actually for lunch one day during the photo shoot. And everybody was saying it was one of the best lasagnas they ever had. It had a really wonderful, the noodles still had, they weren't mushy or soggy or overcooked, overbaked. They still had, some tooth to them, al dente. And it stayed together very nicely, as you can see in the picture. It stayed together beautifully when it was sliced. This is just the way, once you make this is the way you're going to be making lasagna always. The trick is, though, you have to make it with time that allows yourself to both freeze it and then defrost it thoroughly. But it's a wonderful go-to meal. And the same with this chicken pot pie. We use the pie crust that we learned to make earlier. And definitely, if you have another freezer pie crust recipe that you like, you can use it for this. But I highly recommend that you learn how to make a sourdough, and it's so easy. And if you're worried at all about a sourdough starter and say, oh, I struggle this, in the Modern Pioneer cookbook, my first cookbook, and also in my videos online, I show you how to make a foolproof sourdough starter, and I share all the tips and tricks with you. I show you what to do if you want to be the virtuous bunny, as I call it, and I show you what to do if you just want to take the quick and easy way. So I'm going to have you in a place where you, no matter what, are going to have a sourdough starter one way or the other. But this is a chicken pot pie. My husband loves chicken pot pie with both a top and bottom crust, not this cheating nonsense with just the top crust. And I show you how to make it here using the sourdough pie crust. Again, this is so foolproof. This crust is so flaky, so tender, and you're going to make this chicken pot pie, and you're going to freeze everything up. You're going to make it and freeze it, and you're not going to bake it until you defrost it and put it into until you put it right from the freezer into your oven. So you're baking it fresh, you're not reheating it. And the crust comes so beautiful, the inside's bubbly and all. We also ate this for lunch one day too. After we took the photographs, we enjoyed it. But these are the type of freezer foods that are not just your average casseroles that I didn't really grow up eating casseroles. I grew up eating more things like lasagna, baked ziti, chicken pot pie. So these are the things I share with you. And over the years, I've developed these little tips and tricks to how to make these frozen foods really tasty, to taste like they're freshly made, not to taste like they've been in the freezer for a few months. That's the case of the lasagna and this chicken pot pie, where you're making it, but it's uncooked. I show you how to freeze the crust, how to put the filling in, how to put the top crust in, how to freeze it, and then how to wrap it properly. And then when you're ready to take it out and put it in the oven, so it's baking fresh like you just made it. I've got Salisbury steaks and chicken legs. Oh, and then I have a traditional Italian carrot cake. This is something my mother always made, and she always made it in a tube pan, so that's how the picture looks here. And this is nothing like what we think of as in the United States when we think of carrot cake, which is kind of dense and heavy and has delicious and has the sour cream frosting and all. This is a very different type of carrot cake. It's very light. And again, this was one that the chef tested, and he was testing it around Thanksgiving time last year. And he made it, and he had guests for Thanksgiving, and he said this was the most popular dessert on the Thanksgiving dessert table. That made me happy. I'm sure my mom is smiling down from heaven. But it's a wonderful light cake. It's so nice because it's so versatile. You can, Italians have like a lot of light cakes like this for breakfast. So you can enjoy this for breakfast with a cup of coffee. You can enjoy it as an afternoon snack with tea, or you can serve it as dessert after dinner, especially to guests. And my mother was not an icing girl. It was very rare that we had anything with icing, but she loved her powdered sugar. Everything, and I think this is very Italian. You'll have to tell me if you're of Italian ancestry like me, if your mother or grandmother used a lot of powdered sugar. I don't know if it's Northern Italian or if it was just my mom, but every dessert got a shaking of powdered sugar. And there are different ways you can do this. You can when you take this out of the oven, you can put the powdered sugar on so it kind of almost melts into it a little, and then do another shaking of powdered sugar, or you can just do a light dusting, whatever you want. But this freezes beautifully. No one will know you took this out of your freezer. And then I've got some other wonderful things. I've got an apple tart, out of this world, so easy to make, but it's like got nougat topping. Again, freezes beautifully, bakes up beautifully. We enjoyed that for dessert one day, along with the carrot cake too. I've got some gingerbread waffles, which these are wonderful. They're so easy to make, and they're wonderful because they're great like for Christmas morning, because they have that one, and you're just popping them in, the toaster or the toaster oven, because you've got them in the freezer. They freeze beautifully, and then they toast up beautifully, and they have a wonderful aroma. They just fill the house with that smell of Christmas. And then I share with you how to make a syllabub. And again, this is a non-alcoholic version. And this goes very traditional, goes back in history. It's fruit and cream, and it's just a wonderful dessert, and I make it in a non-alcoholic way, so you'll really like that. And then Chapter 8, it's all about pickling, and again, you've got your QR code right up here in the corner, and you can learn, about pickling. Pickling is nice because it's very easy, and if you're new to fermentation, pickling can be a fun place to start, because the process is relatively similar in many ways. But pickles you're going to put, when I say pickles, pickled foods, go right into the refrigerator, versus ferments, which are going to sit on your counter and ferment. But I show you how to make some nice flavored herb vinegars, how to pickle ginger. And that was, I think this was the chef had done the recipe testing for that, and he really liked the pickled ginger because it's a very easy recipe. You don't have to try to find, and again, pronunciation, the shisho leaves, which can be sometimes hard for people. That's what gives the pickled ginger that you may see in some restaurants or stores the pink color, but it can be hard to find those. So I just do a plain pickled ginger, and he really liked that. It was easy and very flavorful. And then the cherry peppers, I have to show you how to pickle those because I love them, and I stuff them with cheese, delicious, and just a lot of different things. A little Texas tomatillo relish, and then cornichons. No, none of my cookbooks would be complete without something showing pickled cornichons. If you've seen our Shop with the Schraders video with our son Ben, we buy the cornichons, and I think we got them at Trader Joe's in our Trader Joe video, because he and I would grow these together and pickle them when he was a little boy, because cornichons are very small gherkins. We call them in the United States. They're like gherkins, and they are wonderful on sandwiches. And then I have to tell you, the food stylist made this sandwich with them, and everybody, and we cut it up and inhaled it afterwards. So there's just, I've got different recipes for all kinds of things in the pickled area. And I think that if you've never had honey pickled orange slices, you are in for a treat. Plus, I show you how to make a thyme and honey pickled cough syrup. Perfect, we talked about the extended pantry. Perfect for the sub pantry that we call the healing pantry, where we have all the ingredients for making our home recipes and whatnot. But this is wonderful, and this actually was one of the recipes tested by the chef, and he said he was a little unsure, making home remedies and whatnot. And then he made this, and he said, wow, that was a nice cough syrup. Just something very, very simple. I've got how to make some horseradish in here, a salsa verde, and this is a pickled salsa verde. If you've ever made salsa verde, you know you have to kind of use it pretty quickly. This was actually what my mother would do. And this is, Italian salsa verde. She would make this, but then she would pickle it to make it last longer in the refrigerator. And it had a really wonderful flavor with it being pickled. And then the cucumber salad, that was cute. The photographer who had said that she wasn't necessarily a fan of pickled foods, she loved the pickled cucumber salad, so that was nice. And of course, pickled eggs. This is very reminiscent of my dad growing up and the pickled eggs that would be in the jars, at the various little corner groceries and whatnot. And this is something that a lot of people had asked me how to home cure corned beef. And so I've included that in, you're kind of curing, it's a little different than pickling, but I wanted to include that because I had received a lot of questions on how to do that. And then I show you how to cook your corned beef, and once you've home cured it. And nothing from me would be complete because, again, waste not, want not. Any corned beef you have left over, I show you how to pickle the corned beef and top it with clarified butter to make a nice little spread. And then some different recipes on how to pickle, sort of like in the fermentation chapter, how to pickle, end of season fruits, end of season vegetables, that type of stuff. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this walkthrough through the Modern Pioneer Pantry, and it is available for pre-order, and for a limited time, you can also get that free signed book plate from me, and I'm really looking forward to you getting this book into your hands. I think you're going to love continuing on your traditional foods journey, especially if you started with me with the Modern Pioneer Cookbook. We're going to have a lot of fun working our way through this. I've already got a lot of videos made that show you how to make things that I feature in this book, and I'll be making even more videos to always be there with you and walk through with you. And I've got a friend here who I think is ready for a walk, my sweet pup Bindi. Well, in any event, be sure to click on this video over here where I tell you all about the Modern Pioneer Cookbook if you're interested in learning about that, and I think someone is very interested in learning about a walk. Well, be sure to click on that, and I'll see you over there in my Texas Hill Country Kitchen. Well, I think Indy and I will see you over there in my Texas Hill Country Kitchen. Love and God bless. You going to say bye-bye to everybody?